Hi, it's Chicken Bone John here. A couple of weeks ago I did a little video about installing bolt-on necks on ukuleles, and indeed here are two ukuleles with bolt-on necks. This one's obviously in a deeper box, this one slightly shallower, and there you go. So just a few observations about how best to do this and a few things I've learnt as I've gone along. One thing I've always maintained is it's better to use this type of bridge, a glue-on bridge, rather than having a floating bridge and having the strings anchored at the back, because I think the actual strings pulling on the top liven the thing up a wee bit. When you've got the tail piece, this bridge is just pressing down, whereas if it's glued on, it's sort of the whole tension is on the top. This is the type of thing that I used. It's slightly different style, but you can see it just glues on. What I did do actually was drill a couple of holes through and screw the thing in to help clamp the thing down when I glued it. On here, I actually scraped off the paint finish, so I've got a good bond. A few other things. This is a Soprano, which is I think 13 3/4 inch scale. I prefer my ukes with a longer scale length, so there's more tension in the strings, but that's what I'd got ready, these Soprano length fretboards. Bone nut, one thing is I did put on I got some really nice friction pegs, but when I put them on, I found it very difficult to get it tuned accurately. I know the whole thing was settling in, but I was a bit dissatisfied with them. So what I did, I put on this type of mini sealed machine head. They're a little heavier, but I don't think it upsets the balance of the instrument too much, and it's so much easier to tune with these. Even though these are nice, they are direct, they're not planetary geared like banjo tuners. Another thing with this part of note, apart from the bolt-on neck and the glue-on bridge, they've both got pickups. Here's the battery box for this one. Here's the battery box for this one. Sometimes when you buy these packages of preamps, they come with like a little bag to put the battery in, which is very unsatisfactory. You can't really get to it, so I used one of these little plastic battery boxes. Much better. I had a couple of issues when I did this one. I don't know if you can see, but it's got this Fishman, it's got this Fishman Precis preamp, and there's a couple of little thumb wheels in here for the volume and tone. I installed it with the under saddle pickup. It's got an end pin jack, which is this type of thing. I think it's sometimes called a ribbon or a braid type element. Installed it properly. I had to deepen this slot, drop it in, drill through, try to get as even as I could, but I was getting no real volume when plugged in from this top string. Yeah, it's fine acoustically, but when plugged in, it wasn't too good. Anyway, I continued and did this one, and I've got a different pickup for that. It's a simpler one. It's just an end pin with the preamp built in here, input for the battery here, which I took to a battery box, and it came with this sort of rod pickup with a micro jack, and that plugs in there. Now, because the under saddle pickup hadn't worked too well here, I decided I was going to put one of these in, the ordinary disc piezo. So basically I cut off the under saddle pickup, wired it to that, mounted that underneath the bridge from the inside with a dab of silicone, and it worked absolutely fine. Nice even tone across the strings. I'll plug it in and show you in a little while. Nice even tone across the strings. So what I did, I was unhappy about this, so I thought I could replace the whole system, or I can try replacing the elements. So I took the whole thing apart, and of course it's easy with the bolt-on neck, and I changed this type of filament for a dot piezo, and it was way better, nice and clear across all the four strings, nice and balanced. So there you go. And so I've still got the same preamp in it. A few of the things to watch out when you are making them in this style. Obviously you got this glued on bridge, so your scale length has to be set dead accurate. There's no margin for error. You can't adjust it. Likewise, the action, you need to be roughly in the ballpark. You can raise and lower your saddle to a certain extent, but you don't want an overly tall saddle or a low saddle. Likewise, the nut, I was careful to make sure I've got a nice low action at the nut, so I carefully slotted the nut there. So yeah, that's just a couple of things on the setup. You're never going to get as much volume from one of these acoustically as a regular uke, but they're perfectly acceptable for strumming, and they come into their own when you plug them in. So here's the uke. Here it is acoustically. Okay, here's the other one. This is a bit thinner sounding. I think the top's stiffer, the whole thing's a little bit more rigid than the other one. Let's plug them in and see how they sound. It's hardly ideal. I'm putting it into my Blues Baby combo guitar amp. They'll really be better into a PA or an acoustic amp, but here we go. I say the piezo preamp, one of the reasons I don't think they work particularly well with the rod element is they do require a fair bit of pressure on them, and on nylon strings you get very little pressure as opposed to a steel string instrument. So I think that's why these work better with a piezo dot just glued in underneath the bridge. By the way, there's no bracing or anything on these. It really doesn't need it. The tops are plenty stiff enough. Okay, thanks for watching. Bye for now.